on the AP damage, and we'll see how they've adapted here as we jump into draft.
And I mean, it's so interesting, right? Because the expectation coming into this event was that Syndra was going to be S tier. Syndra was going to be getting picked every single game. It's only been banned against DK a single game of the 4 that they have played, but they're not playing it. Even though Showmaker has that legendary Syndra, it just hasn't been the meta that we've really expected.
And speaking of meta, chat touched on it a little bit at the desk at the top of the day. We've seen this insane Yone presence and teams refusing to ban him a lot. Everybody's at this point kind of already had their chance to say, yeah, nobody else can deal with it, but we can. Everyone's learned better now. Yone's the first ban on the red side, and boys, I love to see it. This champion has proved to just be S++ tier so far at Worlds, so that's gonna be your first ban for DK. Renekton alongside it, Gnar, Vi, and LeBlanc banned out by Top.
I like these bans from Top Esports because I think that they are kind of the foundation of where D plus Kia have found so much success in the past. A lot of comfort for Kingin and the Gnar. Lucid so far at this tournament has been playing a bunch of Vi, being that early game facilitator, especially by playing through Showmaker, and they've taken his LeBlanc away. Does this now increase the priority on Ahri? Does this become the champion that all teams... Oh, Aurora, of course, making its way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Aurora is up and available. You know, I agree. I think they're smart bans from Top because you're banning out LeBlanc, obviously high prio for Showmaker. But I do think the Vi is almost like a pseudo ban towards the Ahri as well because you're taking away the best pairing with the Ahri. So you're also really kind of knocking down Showmaker as far as that goes. Aurora, we've already seen Cream play it here at the tournament. Has been getting played top lane a lot as well. But you know, definitely has the ability to be flexed.
Yeah, and when you're looking at top lane, so far, 369 in the 3 games played by Top Esports has played 2 Rumble games and 1 Renekton game alongside the Yone tax. That's both of these first half bans from DK committed towards focusing on 369. With the Cassante locked in there, I'm assuming it is mid lane Aurora, and Cassante will be going up
still just
into
being
top
covered
lane
for now, though.
For 369. If that does get locked in, oh my bad, I didn't see the thing still flashing on my screen there.
Yeah,
the
it is
glare
tough
got
to
me,
see.
but results-based analysis, I was still correct. It ends up right at the end of the day, and that's going to be picked in as the response. We've got Jax and Skarner for DK. Skarner, another one of those champions, already been played by Lucid so far in the tournament, alongside that Vi that you mentioned that was banned out.
I mean, I'm not surprised because when we look at Top Esports, 369 hasn't really showcased the proficiency for a champion like Aurora on the top side of the map. So the fact that they're just going to lock in the Cassante now, especially given that they've already seen the Jax, makes a lot of sense. This was a team fighting style that they used to take advantage of when playing against T1 to be able to out-team fight them with the Jhin coming in later from Draculove, but they're changing things up. That time around they had the Skarner. This time around they are going to be running the Xin Zhao in the jungle, one of Tian's all-time most played, a big comfort pick for him, and it's something that, well, I think there was some discussion around would it arrive here at the World Championship, but we're going to get to see it for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. The first pick, you know, wasn't picked in play-ins or Swiss thus far. Obviously, very strong early game champion here. You know, can really skirmish well. And if you get ahead, the ultimate can create a lot of space in the late game. You know, can definitely be pretty strong, but it's going to be interesting to see how well Tien is going to be able to perform on this pick, because Skarner does pretty heavily, I think, outscale as far as the utility you have in those late game fights.
D plus Kia prioritizing their support, basically saying that they're very likely going to give Showmaker the last pick so we can see the entire draft. He may be thinking about a Silas once more, but you don't want to have to blind pick that depending on how the bot lane rounds out.
Boom, banned out.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, brother.
The Poppy ban away to, well, that makes a lot of sense. I think Poppy in general is quite good into Jax and Rel specifically, so that's going to be removed. They may look to get rid of Alistar. Alternatively, they could get rid of the Leona. Both very meta-engaged supports that also just work well with things like the Jhin. Potentially a Kai'Sa that could come out from Top Esports as well.
I like the Alistar ban angle too, considering your opponents have already banned away Silas. Normally that's something that you would love to pick into an Alistar, but no, it's going to be Renata Glass instead, wanting to make sure they don't have that powerful lane bully potential with a couple of aggressive early AD carries alongside the big counter dive in the team fights.
Exactly. I mean, you already have 3 melee champions drafted in here. You know, you're talking about potentially even more going in if you're looking towards a Kai'Sa, if you're looking towards a dive champ for Showmaker. I think Renata is a really good answer. And I actually prefer this ban, you know, over a lot of those melee engaged supports, because I do feel that there's so many in that pool that are pretty interchangeable. Okay. Yes, I think everyone agrees that Rel is kind of the S tier, but you have Leona, you have Alistar, you have Nautilus, you have all these champions that can kind of just be slotted in and really are fulfilling a very similar role, but clearly Top not wanting to allow DK to get them some of those prime dive champions. The Kai'Sa is going to be banned out in addition to that Silas, which already was banned. So this might change things up, and we are going to get an Orianna here from Showmaker.
Ooh, Orianna.
First one of the tournament, so I mean, 5 games, 5 different champs for him.
Yeah, when I think of Showmaker, I don't traditionally think of Orianna. He's
No.
always been that kind of...
Think of playmakers and
yes,
aggressive
exactly.
champs.
I mean, he's showmaker, playmaker. That's it goes with
hand
the
in
name,
hand.
right?
This is Showmaker scale to 3 items and look for a shockwave.
Yeah. But you have to give the respect to him, even if it's not one of his like most well-known champions. Against Aurora, it's a great matchup. She is so good at bullying a lot of champions, but Aurora really struggles to lane up against the champion. So you're going to guarantee priority in that mid lane matchup. You're going to get to see the AD carry on the bot side of the map. And the top esports ran out with an Ashe Braum, a very defensive but also high pressure lane just because of the range and training potential that Ashe Braum can give you. We'll see if DK can round things out with a draft that gives them a little bit more control on the bot side of the map.
I like the Ashe here too for top esports because it gives you a go button, right? When you look at the rest of the composition, there's not that huge hard engage. Kasante's good at isolating somebody. Aurora can catch somebody, but if she's the main engage, it can get kind of dicey for her as well. I like the ability to get the arrow in there, find some engage in a role that often doesn't have as much. Now let's see what DK wants to do here for this final pick of the draft that they did save for the AD carry role. A lot of the times you don't see this on Red 5, but it looks like DK wanted to save it for the hyper-scaling power of the Smolder.
I'm surprised, honestly. I was expecting something like an Ezreal, a little bit more defensively. When aiming gets a champion like that, he has so much agency and control later on into the game. But I'm surprised to see Smolder return to the bot lane because after the repeated nerfs, like the reason why you see it mid top into these safe laners is because he has a rough laning phase. You want that time to be able to scale up, get to that point, but dives, lane swaps, I mean, playing into an Ashe, all these variables make it difficult for pro-level Smolder to get through a laning phase. But D plus Kia clearly have confidence in the pick. They have another avenue for strong scaling later on into the game. And in terms of their team fighting, D plus Kia have a great comp.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they scale insanely well on the DK side. Aiming, already played the Smolder once this tournament. Was against FlyQuest. It was actually against an Ashe as well. So, is probably pretty comfortable in that matchup. This is the second time he's going to be bringing it into it. And it is going to be interesting. Sometimes in those 2v2 lanes, you can get some pretty good early stacks if you can hit those Ws, especially on a champion that doesn't really have a huge threat of hard engage like the Braum. Every time he's coming up, you can get some free stacks and look to play to scale because their game plan is going to be slow. You have Skarner, Ori, Rel, Jax, and the Smolder. These are 5 late game monsters for DK.
Do you guys think we're going to see a lane swap here? Is that the play, or will it be standard stuff?
I think it's potential to be standard lanes. I don't think anyone has these massive advantages in the bot lane, but we'll see what they want to look for.
My instinct is that if someone's going to do it, it'll be DK. Because I think that the Smolder may want to get out of that bot lane 2 versus 2. We'll keep track of whether or not they choose to do it. For now, it looks like a pretty standard line of scrimmage as we have a look at the runes. Looking across the field, it doesn't look like there's anything too crazy coming out from any side. Prio is a super important thing to think about. The top lane is just going to be this back and forth flow between the Kasante and the Jax, something that we've seen multiple times before. We're probably not going to pay much attention to that top side of the map. Bot lane, I'm expecting top esports to have that early push, and in the mid lane, I'm expecting it to go in the favor of Showmaker. The thing about these junglers, though, is that Lucid's going to prioritize just full clearing on the Skarner, and as we talked about the swap, you'll notice that aiming is making his way up towards the backside of the jungle, heading towards that top lane, meaning that we're likely going to see the traditional form of the lane swap, but you can see top esports reading the play. They're already moving into the bot side enemy jungle, leveraging the Braum Ashe combo that they do have, knowing it's a strong level 1, but also likely expecting this lane swap to come through.
Exactly. They'll use the sweeper. They'll find that ward there in the brush. And unfortunately, we are off to a pause here at the very start. Not exactly certain what the nature of this one is. So we'll try to update you guys ASAP on whatever's going on. And hopefully we can get it back onto the Rift very quickly.
Yeah, it's also worth noting Lucid is playing Aftershock, which pretty much always means that you are going to be going towards those more supportive style items. Almost always you do see people going Grasp when they're going to go Heartsteel Sterix and that style of build. So it'll be interesting to see if he is just going to go towards Zeke's or Locket. But every once in a while you do still see people play Aftershock with Heartsteel.
Now the viewers at home can't hear this, but it's paused while a sweeper is going off. So we now hear that sweeper.
I really hope they can't hear it as well, because it's rather loud. It's the sweeper resonance noise.
Yes, it's
right here.
It's
with
just
us.
there.
That brush is very swept at this point.
That brush is controlled. The update that we have for y'all so far is that the pause is related to potential hardware issues, but we don't know anything more than that right now. So as officials are investigating and figuring out what is going on there, hopefully we can get to the bottom bottom of it, see what's going on. The worst part is we haven't even got to see exactly what's shaking out yet in the game, except for the fact that, hey, the lane swap is on the menu, and that's how we're starting the series off.
And I mean, mostly when we've seen these lane swaps at Worlds, it's just to get a little bit of experience, get towards level 3, and then they just swap right back, and they play standard lanes after that if you think you have a really poor level 1 or some sort of problem from there. So that's kind of the expectation, I think, here from aiming.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen, I would say, in my opinion, that the current iteration of lane swap is the easiest compared to many of the other versions that we've seen in the past, mainly just because you run a duo lane mid, you run a duo lane top, you get enough XP that you're level 2, and then everyone heads towards one side of the map.
The sweeper is
turned
gone.
off.
Yeah.
It's done.
Praise to the production team.
Thank you, production. We appreciate that.
We are safe.
The longest duration sweeper of all time in League of
It
Legends.
reminds me of the Corky E-bug.
Oh, God,
In a pause,
yeah.
sometimes you get it, but then you come out of the pause.
And it's still going?
And it's still going.
Yeah, you just hear the gat like that for the next 40 minutes.
Yes.
Do you guys remember back a few years ago when Amumu's taunt or laugh or something was global for a couple of patches?
I do remember
so
that.
Even solo queue players, it wasn't just competitive pauses, it was
Yeah.
everyone was just subject to an Amumu player's whims.
And Nunu used to be like that as well. And you could do the like Robo Nunu or whatever and spam the laugh. And you could just hear it the entire game. Because you can't actually mute in-game. You can't mute the actual like emote sounds.
No.
So it was an experience playing League of Legends back in those patches.
Darker times in League of Legends, but it sounds like we'll hopefully be hopping back into the game here real soon. And then we can get this game 1 underway, Top versus DK. You guys already talked about it a little bit, but DK coming into the 2-0 spot in the bracket. They started off with what I think a lot of fans, a lot of viewers would consider like the ideal draw, right? You get Fnatic into FlyQuest. A lot of teams are going to look at that and say, hey, this is a great matchup. We're feeling good, 2-0. Then you go into the best of 3 against LNG to get that coveted 3-0 spot straight into the quarterfinals, straight to Paris. And it all kind of fell apart. Isaac, I know you were very unhappy with the one draft, but honestly, it just felt like DK got outplayed a lot there. So they got to be looking to redeem themselves in that performance here a little bit today.
Yeah, one of the interesting things was, it was that Game 2 draft that you're referencing, where they were basically playing full AP into a team that could stack a ton of MR, including having a Galio on the team. I actually thought that was the best as far as gameplay that DK played in the entire tournament. Even though they did lose, they actually ended up making it a rather competitive game, which was pretty surprising to me because of the massive drastic disadvantages. But that's kind of just the team that this team is. Like, they can be really, really good. When they're on, they are crushing it. Mechanically, they're very, very talented, but you just don't know what you're going to get from them. Even when you look towards their game against FlyQuest, they created this large early advantage and then gave some really big opportunities for FlyQuest to actually pull that game back and put themselves in a lead where, had FlyQuest played it better, maybe they could have even cleaned that up. So, DK is definitely a bit of a hit or miss team.
Oh, Mohan getting jumped on here by Tien as he makes that invade early on here. Mohan is going to make it back underneath the tier 1 turret, though. Level 1 with 2/3 HP as they are preparing to crash that wave into the tier 1 turret.
So to talk a little bit more about DK, they have some very interesting stats that we're going to bring up here as far as the gold leads throughout different times in the game that I think are very indicative of their level of performance. Incredible early game, and it really starts to struggle. That's where they start to be more difficult on the coordinated play, but we're going to see if they can pull off his dive.
All right, 4v2. Kingen and Mohan got to try to survive this one. Who's going to take the turret aggro here at the very start? Looks like Mako. TES walking back away, but now Tien with that 3-talent strike already primed. It's first blood, though, the other direction. DK doing a good job. Mohan surely has to die here. A 1-for-1 trade, but in a 2v4, DK is going to be all right with that one.
I mean, there's good news and bad news for TK. The good news is that Kingen doesn't lose his life, but the bad news is he's being denied a lot of farm, so he's trying his best to get back underneath the tower.
But he is stunned. 369 Mako and Jackie Love want to try to deny even more here if they can. Kingen popping the counter-strike, staying alive for now. Nice 2-man stun coming out, but Kingen down to about 50 HP, still staying alive somehow, but the volley claims his life. Top Esports get their man.
Yeah, that was pretty well played overall by Top. They forced out the Counter-Strike initially, and then as soon as Kingen has that Counter-Strike down, they flash forward, they chase after him to go for that redive. And it was first blood that did go to DK, but Kingen trying to get back that tower was a bit too far. Again, this is after the initial Counter-Strike had been popped. You can see a good job there by Mohan, being able to peel, being able to keep them locked up under that tower to be able to get first blood. then the kill is traded back, and Kingen decides, you know, he's going to try to go for this, but this is very risky. You get tagged by the auto from Mako, and then the Q follows it up and procs that Braum stun. He's already so low.
Yeah, at this point, he's trying his best to leverage the counter-strike, but Mako with a great flash there, reading the stun that's going to come through from Kingen, and he's able to sidestep it, and then they manage the tower aggro beautifully. So Top Esports find 2 kills. They're happy ultimately with how the play works out. They deny a lot of farm, a lot of XP, and crucially, they get a kill onto 369 to help funnel more golden resources into him as well.
Yeah, and it's always painful, you know, for Kingen when you use your TP prior to a dive like that. You know, the TP's down, and you do get punished pretty heavily as a result. Mid lane, though, quietly going slightly in the favor here of Showmaker, has had the push as you were expecting, Vetty. And jungle has really just been Lucid farming it up here. You know, he is about that 1.5 camp ahead here at this point. Now gets another camp.
Yeah, exactly. He wins a little bit of a smite battle there for the Wolves as, again, he's invaded by TN. Kingen's got to be a little careful here, though. Mako showing up to help JackeyLove, who puts plenty of arrows into the Jacks, but Kingen still healing up thanks to the potion, back underneath the safety of the Tier 1 turrets. TN still hanging around, but Lucid is also here farming up his own Grom.
So normally we see these swap backs, right? And the reason why the swap backs are quite important is because of the wave states after all these shenanigans happen. The problem for Kingen is that that wave was bouncing away from him after that tower dive, and so usually you'd bring the bot lane back so they can at least contest the wave, but Kingen now finds himself trying to contest the wave, gets collapsed on. Now look at the state of the wave. JackeyLove can freeze this here and be very happy, and Kingen is now just losing a lot of resources.
Well, and that's why they're going to swap back now. So aiming his base, he's going to head back down towards bot because they realize that Kingen is basically in a no-win situation. He's not going to be able to fix that wave by himself. So aiming has been able to get all the way up towards level 5. He's gotten a lot of solo experience up on that top side. He has a Sheen, he has a Tier, he's at a pretty good point in the game. So he's now happy to be matching up against this Ashe, and him and Moham will be heading out towards bot. They're being covered by Lucid, and they should be able to fix this wave no problem. But we can see JackeyLove already is starting a bit of a slow push here for himself.
Yep, him and Mako just going to have to try to deal with this 2v3 situation now. Moham immediately in with a crash down, shattering strike. Mako at 100 HP, and aiming is on the board.
A clean gank from D plus Kia, and just well timed. Top Esports, rather than setting up for a freeze, they ran the risks of, okay, a swap is going to come through. If they have a stacked wave and they get it underneath this tower, they're going to dive us. So let's thin the wave, push it as quickly as possible, and then reset, spend the gold. But regardless of that, DK still found a window to find a gank. There was no vision in that tri-brush. Lucid was able to get close enough, and they knew that Mako had no flash. So just like that, D plus Clear equalized the kills.
Yeah, and actually, we see the Showmaker use his Shockwave, got a really good trade on Cream, who doesn't have his teleport available. So did lose a couple of minions there as he gets shoved in. The wave isn't quite back yet for Showmaker to push, so it will be a cannon wave as well. So Cream's not going to miss too much here, but Showmaker definitely getting prio there, as we did have a Dragon for Grubs trade up on that top side.
Still very, very even in gold overall, with those neutral objectives being handshook, as you're talking about. Aiming 38 stacks, so pretty much exactly where you would expect the Smolder to be at this point.
And you've also got to say, JackeyLove now has to be careful for the next couple of minutes. Did lose his flash, obviously got out. It was Mako that gave his life. But now you're looking over, Moham has flash, Lucid has flash, and this is very, very dangerous for that Ashe. Even if you have the cleanse available, it's not necessarily going to matter.
So scary for a champion with no inbuilt defenses, no inbuilt utility for escaping, other than just kiting a guy so he never reaches you in the first place. Bit of a problem, though, with all of that engage, all of that gap-closing potential there. 3 minutes until their next set of grubs, 4 minutes until the next Drake, so not entirely synced up, but still pretty close. Moham flashing out of the way as the arrow from JackeyLove immediately flies out, forcing the summoner spell from the DK support. One more auto attack will also proc those concussive blows, and aiming now down to about 1/3 life.
Now, JackeyLove as a player has evolved a lot away from this idea of the hyper-aggressive, trading his life for kills type of moniker. He's become a lot more consistent, and I think that was a great example of the controlled aggression that you often see from JackeyLove and Mako. As a bot lane, they still like to fight. They still like to go for those aggressive trades, and they recognize their strength. They know you're still a Smolder. How are you going to fight back against an Ashe Braum? And they just walk up, leverage the level 6 that JackeyLove has. They force Moham out, and then they get a really nice trade onto aiming, forcing him back. So even though he loses his flash, JackeyLove's still actually not playing afraid, and with good vision control, they're getting advantages in the 2v2.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've already taken 3 plates. They're very close to taking that 4th. They just denied an entire wave to aiming off the back of that trade that they did push him back from. So it was a trade, of course, of that cleanse for heal. Mako used his heal to be able to catch up to aiming and get that damage down. Tien in the area now will be spotted if he walks out of that pixel brush, and you can see Lucid is down on this side of the map. So we'll have a chance to respond here as Mako is going to get spotted, and now Tien seen there as well.
Exactly. Tien wanted to make sure that he was ready in case Lucid came down here to punish this constantly pushing wave of top esports. Lucid now hanging around the mid wave instead, as Tien will find another control ward and clear that one out. It feels good for top esports to be able to get this early of value out of those first 3 grubs too, since you often do have to trade those neutral objectives early on. Having both top lane and bottom lane colliding the waves into the turrets like they are, you're getting plenty of early value there.
You certainly are. And right now, it's kind of a slow affair, largely because of, well, the compositions. Both teams kind of waiting for those first item spikes to come through. Ash Arrow.
Oh, nice
Nicely done.
shot there from Jackie Love, forcing a flash out of Showmaker.
And now they're going for the swap up to top side, knowing that the grubs are spawning in about a minute. Good timing for them as they can allow that bot wave to be pushed in. They can even put some pressure onto those top tower plates and maybe catch DK off guard.
And it makes it so much harder now for DK to actually contest here if they want to, because Showmaker is now missing that flash. So if you show up to this objective fight, could be problematic. Aiming is able to get the push though, and at least does get one plate. We'll see if DK are going to look to try to challenge here. 6 grubs can be very problematic, especially when it has been top. That's largely been the ones on the push.
Yeah, and you can look, you still don't have the cleanse cooldown for aiming, you don't have the real flash for Moham, and then over on the other side, it's only Jackie Love's flash that is down, but it'll honestly be coming right back up around the time that they've been wanting to contest for those grubs. So things are looking pretty good for top esports around that area. Mako and Jackie Love now also just gonna grab even more money from these plates. 10.5 minutes into the game, you can see on the left side of your screen, it's Jackie Love, 200 gold out in front of anybody
and
else.
you can see Kingen head down towards bots. They're gonna try to overload this side of the map. They're gonna try to look to farm a lot of these plates. So this is signifying I don't think they're actually going to contest here at the grubs, and we'll see if it's going to be an immediate start for top. They're already going to be able to take the tier 1 top. They will win the race on this, and top just playing the map really, really well.
Overall, I think top esports have just been playing the better macro game than DK have in the laning phase, and you'll see the little pink bars underneath the champion icons. Look at 369, a half a level up from Kingen, and that's just come from him moving around the map, being at the right waves at the right time, and Kingen has just kind of been playing catch up a little bit, as top esports have been the proactive ones when it comes to moving around the map.
Another pause, and we will see. The one thing I will say is, despite the fact that top has opened up a 1K gold lead, and it looks like they're going to be able to likely get 6 grubs here also. The scaling for DK is really, really strong, so they may feel okay to be down a little bit in gold. The question is going to be, can you actually, keep it within reach? Over this next 10, 15 minutes, are they going to be able to, maintain this slight gold deficit, or is top going to be able to really accelerate the game, utilize those 6 scrubs, constantly push these waves, and bring the gold to a level where you can't really compete realistically in the 5v5?
So since we have a couple minutes to talk about it anyway, because of the pause, again, not exactly sure what that is yet. We'll let you guys know when we figure out more. That 1,000 gold lead right now, just a little bit after 11 minutes into the game. What does the gold advantage need to be then for top esports when the clock strikes 20 for them to feel confident against this powerful scaling capability of DK, do you think?
That's a very specific question.
I know, we got to pause. I got to ask you guys some specific questions.
I mean, you can, if you have an answer, you can
well, it's mainly so that, I think that while I think DK have a scaling advantage, I don't think it's egregious enough that top esports need to have accelerated the game to a certain point, that's the only way that they can win. Because in my opinion, top esports' composition has great pick potential, right? In particular with Cream and Jackie Love on Aurora and Ashe, you have that great assassination potential. You pick out a target, especially low mobility targets like Orianna. With all this potential collapse that you have, there's a lot of threat. So I feel like the top esports will always have options in the team fights. It just will get to a certain point in the game where the stacks on Smolder become so egregious, and I think the Jax on a side lane is going to be your other potential problem that DK can look to leverage. The next question then becomes, do you trust DK enough to execute upon their composition? Because I think in this tournament, they've showcased that their setups around objectives aren't always optimal. The decisions that they make on side lanes are a bit questionable. But that's a little bit more intangible.
I mean, execution is always more important than scaling. At the end of the day, you have to pilot your champions correctly. But to me, I do think there's a very significant scaling advantage for DK. I would kind of look at a 3-item breakpoint here. If DK are able to get their carries to 3 items and they're within a couple thousand gold, I feel like they have outscaled. As long as you are having, those well-executed fights, I think they are significantly favored at that point in the game. The question is, can you execute as well as top? Because as Vetti's saying, there is always going to be those opportunities for picks and for outplays, for a failed execution. But I think it is almost impossible to fight front to back against Orianna, Jax, Rel, Skarner, and Smolder when you're at 3 items if the game is close. Like, it just becomes so difficult. There's so many threats that the counter engage, I think, is going to be ridiculously tough for them to deal with.
All right, so as we go forward, then we'll keep in mind those big item breakpoints alongside the fact that DK's got to keep things a little cleaner than they have so far in the tournament from what we've seen up until this point. Still, just only a little over a 1,000 gold lead for Top Esports 12.5 minutes in. There is that full second set of grubs that went the way of Top as well as soon as we unpaused the game. The second Drake is live. The first one, remember, was claimed by DK, but now it's Top Esports jumping in after the second.
So the big advantage that Top Esports have right now is just the strength of their bottom lane. The fact that they can get prio pretty much wherever they move on the map is allowing Top Esports a lot of control around these towers and these neutral objectives. The fact that they secured the 6 grubs, the only reason why they're down a Drake right now is because they traded the grubs in favor of the Dragon, and now again they've leveraged their bot lane to secure that objective, and they're going to bring that bot lane back into the 2 versus 2 to keep putting pressure onto this bot lane tower. You can see this gold lead ever so slightly getting larger and larger, and it's a lot off the back of what is happening thanks to the bot lane from Top Esports.
And when you're thinking about the graphic that we showed earlier, it is concerning, as a nice sidestep there from aiming. They're going to look to dive anyway.
Ooh, Glacial Fissure knocks aiming up into the air, but he and Moham honestly still feeling pretty safe underneath the tier 1 turret here. Even though TN is around, that would be the proposition of diving a Rel with ultimate underneath the turret. Very scary stuff, so Top Esports call it off.
So DK, has been one of the best early game teams at the tournament. They have really struggled in those later stages, as Lucid going to have to run away here. And did in fact go Heartsteel, by the way, with the Aftershock. Definitely the less common. When you do go Aftershock, almost always people are going more of those supportive styles and largely playing towards Grasp when they do play Heartsteel. But is going to go for that scaling build, so even kind of more indexing towards what they do see as, I think, their win condition, which is going to be scaling 5v5.
I mean, I can understand taking the Aftershock sometimes with the big health stacking build as well, since you're just building these items that give you such insane health pools but no resistances, having that extra tankiness from the Aftershock proc, as long as you don't miss your E and your R. I mean, if you miss those, then I guess why did you take the thing in the first place? But bottom lane tier 1 turret in some serious trouble now, as a little bit more damage gets it done. Moham jumps in here with the Magnet Storm, immediately trying to make the fight happen in the 2v2. Meanwhile, the jungler fight off to the side ain't gonna matter because Moham is already dead. The arrows fly, and DK dies. Top Esports picking up 3 as Showmaker and Kingen tried to join up to help everybody else, but now they're in a bad spot too. Cream and TN chasing after Showmaker. He's trying to buy himself a little bit of extra time. Top Esports are on the hunt for the Orianna. Showmaker still trying to get away. 2-man Shockwave. It don't even matter, man. Showmaker is going nowhere fast. Top Esports, turret +4.
Top Esports, again, just wisely play through their bot lane. They know that they're the strongest part of the map right now. They set up a siege onto the bot tower, and DK say, we're going to try and hold this. We're going to defend. We think we're strong enough to try and fight you. Azale talks a lot about the scaling elements, but DK saying, we feel we're strong enough to fight now, and they are not.
And DK just waited too long. I mean, Moham, I think it's a good idea as the minion wave is getting cleared out to look for this hard engage with the tower still alive, but he goes in too late. All 4 TPs from the solo laners are used, but Showmaker and Kingen are TPing in way far away from the rest of the team, whereas the top solo laners arrive and are immediately participating in that dive, and it ends up being basically a 5v3 situation where they just slaughter the bot lane from DK, they kill off Lucid, and Showmaker and Kingen have nothing to do but watch the game slip away.
Exactly that. The Herald is now going to be converted in favor of Top Esports as well. And now they can move this bot lane into the mid lane and start sieging onto this mid tier 1, really unlocking the map for Top Esports and start threatening even the jungle of D plus Kia.
3.5 minutes ago, we were looking at a game state where the neutral objectives were 1-1. Top Esports was about to make it a 2-1, and the gold was 1,000 apart. Now, only that short time later, it's a 4,500 gold lead. It's a massive advantage for Top Esports, having secured the Rift Herald now as well, and it feels like D+, their chances are just disappearing in a flash.
Absolutely. I mean, you're getting completely choked out off the map at this point in the game. It is going to be so hard, and it just becomes a nightmare. Like, Grubs is sometimes are really valuable, sometimes not. But when you're already really ahead, it becomes so annoying because they're always going to get the push. Now they have the Herald. This is going to be 12 Void Mites popping out of this thing. It's like a clown car of Void Mites running out there.
King is jumping in, though, with a counter-strike for the engage. TN is low, but Top Esports are going between worlds. TN gets away, and a massive amount of damage pours into the DK lines. Jackie Love grabbing the first kill. Moham is down. Lucid jumps over the wall, but all DK can do is run. Top Esports are that far ahead.
Tian played that flawlessly. Bear in mind, he has no flash. He gets engaged on from a flanking Kingen. He then gets Skarner ulted underneath the tower, and patiently what he does is he ults, knocks, I think it was the Jax back, and then he uses that as like a bandwagon to then get back to his team to then turn the fight around. Just keep track of Tian in the fight, because as the initiation starts, they catch him coming out of the Rift Herald. They say this is an opportunity to fight. He then gets jumped on by Kingen. He's then going to get dragged underneath the tower. All of the CC store onto him. A nice Ash arrow provides him a bit of space. And then look at that. The ulti onto the Jax allows him a getaway vehicle, and they turn a kill back onto Moham.
Exactly. If you haven't hit someone, that Crescent Guard does knock back, so he doesn't hit the Jax, knocks him back, then uses the charge over onto him. Really well played there by Tien. Knew he was going to be in some danger after driving it in, but Crescent Guard is so powerful in these situations. If you can just get aiming and Showmaker outside of that, they can't do anything to you.
Masterfully maneuvered by the Top Esports jungler in what looked like should have been a death sentence with that collapse. But the only thing collapsing now is DK's chances in this game. Still 4,500 gold down. There is another Drake live, but it's not going to stay that way for very long. Top Esports are already on it. There is no contest for DK. They know how worrying it is to even try to go out and contest anything in neutral territory.
Yeah, I mean, it's really problematic now, and not only are they just trading a tower for a dragon, because Cream is pushing down bot side looking for that tier 2. It does survive for now, but that thing is about to go down to these Void Mites. That's 700 gold in the pockets of Cream there, which now puts him ahead of Showmaker. That was the only person when we saw the gold breakdown that was ahead for DK, and now he no longer is. Ash was already on 2 items, before Aiming completed his 2, so they couldn't really look to fight. At this point, you're basically sitting back, you're praying that Aiming can actually get these stacks fast enough that you can maybe make something happen, but he's only at 147. He is very far away from that 225 breakpoint, and by the time it comes in, could be too little too late.
Tien over the wall, again, maybe looking for a fight. Kingen jumps in for the counter-strike. Jackie Love could be in a little bit of trouble here. Gets away for now. They're locking up the Jax. Kingen can't do it. Moham's about to die here, too. Finally, they get one back on DK's side as Cream gets popped, but Moham's still getting away with only 100 HP. Lucid's here on the front line. Has to try to flash to get out of it. The Impale's going to be flashed back by Tien. As DK, they trade even, and that's about the best they could ask for.
It's a 1-for-1, but the player I want you to just stay focused on is Jackie Love, because they threw everything at him. Kingen was diving on top of him, the Shockwave was there as well, the Skarner was following up, and it still didn't even get his flash.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. It's crazy. The confidence that he has in these situations to just hold on to the flash. He really knows how much damage he can take, the limits he can play towards. It's pretty incredible stuff as Kingen came around on that corner and you think, okay, he is definitely in trouble there as he gets hit by the shockwave. He's knocked back, but he kites out. Mako is blocking well for him. Tien is turning and peeling, and they just focus down Kingen. Well, on the other side, yes, Cream does go down, but Cream uses the ultimate to make sure that the rest of DK can never follow up. It's really well played there.
And credit to Mako too, the use of the heal as also just like that extra summoner spell that you often don't think of. Like Mako, I mean, the bot lane's just having an incredible game. And I think that as a Westerner, there is a perception around Top Esports that like they choke, right, when it comes to the international events. There's always that question mark, how are they going to perform? You look at their recent performance over the last few years, like they've struggled to get out of groups. They've had performances that you don't expect from them. But so far at this tournament, they've been playing at a very high level. We've seen their early games be incredibly strong, very consistent. Tian alone has been having a great game. His presence has been felt all across the map. But this bot lane in particular is really standing out here in game 1 of this series.
And now Top Esports have no intention of slowing down, invading the enemy red side jungle. Lucid and Aiming, yeah, they're hanging around. They don't want to allow the red buff to just be stolen away this easily, but Top would love for these guys to step a little bit too close, and Lucid does just that. There's no way out for the Skarner. Tien ends up taking the kill, and gentlemen, we're 21 minutes into the game. The enemy jungler is down. Top Esports have it take it straight to the Baron.
Yeah, it's so tough, and Lucid had no flash, so being that far forward over towards the red buff is incredibly risky, and now it's going to be a largely uncontested Baron here as King is just going to try to push and grab that bounty off of the tier 2 bot, get a little bit of gold back for the team, but this kind of lead plus the Baron buff plus 6 grubs is likely to mean nearly the end of the game, you have to think.
And you could even see the early TP from 369. Once Top Esports was confident they weren't going to be challenged at the Baron, 369 won't even allow the Tier 2 turret in the bottom lane to fall. The Tier 1 in mid is claimed by DK, but now they got to be careful because Kingan's in some trouble. Cream and Jackie Love in hot pursuit as Kingan wants to try to get away from this one. But they are sending 3 dudes after him. Jax, do we get out of these? I'm not sure. Maybe?
It depends if Mako flashes.
I mean, he has the...
He's
oh,
flashing.
no, okay, yeah. Mako flashes over. The counter-strike isn't going to block enough. Not here, not now, no way, not yet. Kingan is down, and Cream's getting a payday.
Yeah, he wanted them. Wasn't going to let him get away that easily. You've been chasing him for a while, so they get the kill onto Kingan. Yes, DK, at least you get the Tier 1 mid back, and it is an objective bounty, so it's a little bit of an injection of gold there. But Top have everything they need, I feel like, at this point to be able to close this one out.
You know what else is an injection of gold? Baron.
Yeah.
Gives you a lot. There's going to be a lot more gold being injected here soon from Top Esports, who are just in complete control of this game. 45 seconds until the next Drake spawns. You better believe there's going to be no contest for that one. They've got Baron for the next 2 minutes. All of Summoner's Rift is theirs, and DK have to just creep ever so slowly forward, patiently and methodically checking everything, or it might just be a death trap.
I think this game is just an excellent demonstration of how to play not only the lane swap incredibly well, but how to use an early advantage to snowball a game. We talked about it briefly where like 369 was getting slightly more experience than Kingan. We talked about how they were moving Jackie into the right lane at the right time, and just these very small things in the early game ended up building small enough advantages, but those advantages were enough when it came to the crucial moment in that bot lane TP play, because that pressure had built up to a point where DK felt like they had to do something to stop this becoming a bigger snowball. But unfortunately, that pressure, that decision has cost them so much.
Yeah, absolutely is. It is going to be the ult and the heal forced out there by Mako, as he was kind of left behind a little bit from the rest of the team. You know, and they used everything you're talking about, Vetty, to create these kind of incremental advantages, but then they slammed it home with execution in dives and with execution in these 5v5s, you know, and that's really where you do create a world-class team where you can bring both of that together, where you're playing the macro well and you're playing the micro, the team fights, the individual outplays, and that has been the entire package here for Top. They have been looking very, very dominant in this game number 1.
And it's nice to see because in the playoffs, the upset that happened against Weibo was definitely unexpected, and I think that this was the level of play that people were expecting from Top Esports, especially after their incredibly strong performance from the regular season. And he's hoping that they can continue this as they continue through the World Championship. Of course, this is only game 1, and right now they're looking like the favorites, but we've always got to come back to that scaling element, right? And if DK can find a miracle pick, if DK can slow the game down in any way, then there are opportunities and way for them still to come back into the game.
And I love that you bring that up right now, Vedius, because we just hit the 3-item power spike for aiming with the rapid fire cannon completed alongside the Muramana and the Trinity Force. 222 stacks right now, so just a couple more, and he will be online Smolder. Now the problem is, you're staring down the barrel of a 7,000 gold lead with a soul point status for the opponents. It's a really, really vertical cliff to have to climb right now for DK in this game 1.
Exactly, and Showmaker is a mile away from his 3rd item, right? You know, that's another big problem.
He's got a book.
Kingan doesn't even have his 2nd item yet, right? You know, I do think you need 3 items on all these carries, and, you know, I was kind of looking at that couple thousand gold mark where I do think scaling can take over. They are really far behind, though, at this point, so DK are going to need to have some of those X-Factor plays, see if they can make a miracle happen, find an incredible shockwave, find a multi-man Skarner ult, something like that.
Well, they're happy to see that arrow miss. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, 369 just trying to keep Kingan's attention here while the 4v4 continues up in the top lane. Without the Baron buff, though, it is easy enough, I would think, for Showmaker to be able to clear out most of these waves. Nice use of the Pathmaker from 369 to make sure that Kingan isn't getting the better of him. And when Jax is not winning the 1v1 against Cassante, you are not feeling great with the Jax at this stage of the game. Almost 26 minutes in, 3 minutes until the Hex Soul spawns for Top Esports. But even shorter, it's barely over a minute and a half until the next Baron is around, and Top have total control over Summoner's Rift.
Now the good news for DK is they have picked...
Best of 3.
Well,
you gotta do them like that.
your quick wit, still sharp as ever, is that? I was going to say that Aiming is playing a champion of all time. And this champion not only has great scaling, but also exceptional wave clear. And as our observers just highlighted for us, waves just disappear which is why you're seeing the progression of Top Esports' offense onto the base slow down, because the reality is that it's very difficult to siege against an Orianna and a Smolder, so you're kind of forced to leverage objectives. The Baron is spawning in a minute's time, and it wouldn't surprise me, like you're already seeing Top Esports do it, suffocate the vision, and you're going to force DK into a situation where you either come and fight or you'll concede the Baron. And in either situation, that's what Top Esports is looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the map, and it's just kind of like this really shallow vision here along there that DK have. That is just about it, as they're going to look for a pick inside lane.
Yeah, it's a pick onto a Cassante, though. 369, he goes for the all-out. It doesn't get through the terrain, but then he's immediately ready to flash over the wall to get to safety. So 369 escapes. The rest of Top Esports coming down to the area in case DK wanted to go for a very long chase. But now with the Cassante safety secured and 15 seconds left on the Baron timer, Top Esports are right back to what you were talking about, Vedius. It's time to set up for Baron. It's time to force DK's hand.
At the very least, not only did they get the flash there, but they actually bought time for a Moham to move in and get more vision around this area. Yep. So they got a little bit better vision. They have one ward over into the pit. That's obviously going to be swept out, but this ward over by Raptor is not bad either. And DK is going to have to make that really hard choice of, do we contest at Baron? Because you're very far down. If you lose that, it is game over. But by the same token, if you give over Baron for free, you're going to lose full map control. Your wave clear becomes much less effective. And then Top are going to have full run of the map to set up for this soul here.
Whoa, nice shot again. That is the second time this game that Jackie Love has shot a long-range arrow to force the flash from Showmaker.
And I feel like when he's playing it in the LPL, it's the same story. It is ridiculous how good he is at timing out these cross-map arrows. He's so effective at it, just predicting exactly where they'll be based on the move speed. It's really impressive stuff, and now the job for DK gets very difficult. You check too far forward, you die. You don't check far forward enough, you lose the Baron.
All right, Lucid does have the flash back up here on the Skarner, but he still has to be so careful. They use Mom just because they don't know if they're already on the Baron, and as soon as the Dragon sees that there's just nothing there in the pit, it's always going to feel bad.
The power of paranoia is very effective, especially at the high level, because as smart as you are and as good as you are at League, the reality is that you can't see into the fog of war. And so you need that information. It's crucial. On Top Esports, they're very wisely, they're just starting the Baron. They'll like hit a ward, and then they'll back off a little bit, you know, and they're just like, have we started or have we not? And then DK feel that pressure. And it comes back to what we said at the start of the game, those pedals where you're just putting that bits of pressure on to force DK's hand.
DK were actually, pinging heavily over onto the Dragon. They're trying to get the inside track, but they've given up full prio in mid lane, and Kingen is not with them. There is a ward behind the pit, though, where he could look to TP. This is probably the game being decided right here.
All right, it's soul fight time. TP coming in from Kingen. Top Esports backing away, but continuing slow DPS onto the Dragon. Kingen on the left flank. Everybody else on DK here on the right. Tien gonna be grabbed there by the Skarner. The objective bounty claimed by Lucid. DK getting it done, but now Cream's going between worlds off to the side while 369 and Kingen duel off on the left. It's gonna be the first kill on Moham. Top Esports are about to lose their mid laner. He's down. Now they're gonna turn right back over onto Kingen. The Jax goes into the Zonias. He's staying alive for now with another beautifully timed counter strike. He flashes back over the wall. DK's gonna try to regroup, but the Ashe has the damage. Jackie Love gets it done, and it's a 1-for-2 trade, favoring Top Esports as the remaining 4 men head back over to the Baron pit.
Top Esports crucially got the kill onto Lucid. With the jungler gone, the smite is gone. T plus Kia played a good fight. It was slow, it was patient, they leveraged their range, they got a good front to back. But when they overchase, that's where the Ashe becomes deadly, as she was able to use that kiting prowess and re-engage to turn the fight in Top Esports' favor.
Yeah, it just becomes so difficult, and now the Baron is going to be secured here by Top. Cream was not very effective on that flank. They were able to turn on him, burst him down pretty easily. His ultimate actually only connected on Lucid, unfortunately. He was looking for this big backline flank where he was going to try to get multiple members. And you can kind of watch Cream here at the top of the screen. He's going to look for this angle in onto the backline here. While on the other side, it's Kingen looking for the same thing. But Kingen is marked by 369, and watch this ulti only connecting onto Lucid. But Lucid immediately eases him into the wall, stuns him up, and Aiming is able to get a Q here, even with the heal and the flash coming out. That burn was still there to be able to finish him off, and it's from this point, as you say, Eddie, that the gold kind of starts to really show.
Yeah, once you kind of over-chase, in a sense, towards an Ashe, especially with a Braum there, Braum lands a single Q, the passive then gets applied, and Ashe is like, right, okay, I know this combo pretty well.
Once you're in, you don't get out.
Yeah, pretty much, and the power of the Freljord ends up becoming very proficient there. So Top Esports, they secured the ban. That's the objective that they need. They didn't get the soul, so D plus Kia at least have a small positive, but now the siege will come through, and that wave clear that DK have is going to be less effective.
Yeah, Lucid may have died, which gave over the Baron, but he also secured the objective steal to make sure that they did not give that Hex soul, so at least you can count that as a silver lining. But Top Esports are barreling down top lane now. You can see they've still got 369 over in mid for the split pressure. It's still going to take them a while to try to chip through some of this, except for 369 nearly killing. There it goes, the one in mid lane already down as that inhibitor is now exposed. Top Esports happy to wait for the next wave to arrive here in the top lane. Objective bounty claimed in the bot lane at the same time as the tier 2 is destroyed by Kingen, and now Top sees the opportunity to full send it underneath the tier 3 here at the top side. It's already gone. Moham and Lucid going to be taking a lot of damage as Moham's about to be killed. Lucid gets away back underneath the Nexus turrets. Moham still alive somehow. Top Esports haven't lost a man, and the Skarner's also down. 3v5 for DK. Top Esports claim their first inhibitor. They claim 2 inhibitor turrets. They get everybody out, and 369 is ready to retreat and teleport back into the fight.
Yeah, Eamon got a lot of members over on the top side really low, but he just couldn't actually finish them off, couldn't chase in to be able to get those kills, and now the job gets so difficult. The TP's coming back in.
All right, Top Esports want to end it right here. First Nexus turret and second, both dropping at about the same speed. Kingen wants to keep these guys away with a counter-strike, but it ain't going to do enough. Both turrets already dead. 369, tanking it up on the front line as Kingen is already down. Aiming, focused up next. He flashes back into the fountain, but it will not matter. Top Esports take game 1.
A clean game from Top Esports from start to finish. Very little to criticize as the bot lane, 607 for JackeyLove, 0114. Mako was only not involved in a